Stop being dramatic, Anna. Marcus is just trying to discipline you. My mother's words echoed in my ears as I lay on the cold hospital bed, waiting for the X-ray technician. The searing pain in my leg competed with the throbbing in my chest, where Marcus had shoved me against the stair railing just hours earlier. My name is Anna Mitchell, and at 17, I'd become an expert at making excuses for my injuries. The bruises were from soccer practice. The sprained wrist? I fell off my bike. The cut above my eyebrow? I walked into a door. But this time was different. This time, Marcus had gone too far. It started when I got home 15 minutes late from study group. Marcus was waiting by the door, his face already red with anger. My mother stood behind him, wringing her hands like she always did when she knew what was coming. "Where were you?" His voice was eerily calm, the kind of calm that made my stomach turn. "I'm sorry, the bus was late and I—" "Don't lie to me." His hand shot out, grabbing my backpack and throwing it across the room. Books scattered across the floor, my laptop making a sickening crack as it hit the wall. "I'm not lying, I swear. You can check the bus schedule." That's when he snapped. Marcus grabbed my arm, dragging me toward the stairs. "Maybe some time in your room will help you learn respect." I tried to pull away, but his grip was like iron. My mother just watched, her face a mask of forced indifference. As he shoved me toward the stairs, I lost my balance. The last thing I remember was the sound of my leg snapping and my mother's gasp. Now, lying in the emergency room, my mother was still trying to control the narrative. "Tell them you fell down the stairs, Anna. Marcus was just trying to send you to your room. He didn't mean for this to happen." But something in me had broken along with my leg. 3 years of Marcus's discipline, 3 years of my mother's excuses, 3 years of living in fear in my own home. I was done. The X-ray technician, a kind-faced woman named Sarah, wheeled me into the imaging room. My mother tried to follow, but Sarah politely asked her to wait outside. As soon as the door closed, Sarah's professional smile faded into concern. "Honey, I need you to hold very still while I take these images," she said, positioning my leg carefully. "But I want you to know that you're safe here. Whatever you need to tell me, I'm listening." I bit my lip, tears welling up in my eyes. Years of keeping secrets pressed against my throat, threatening to spill out. Sarah worked quietly, taking multiple angles of my leg. Each movement sent waves of pain through my body, but I remained still. "These old injuries," Sarah said softly, looking at the initial images. "They tell a story, don't they?" I couldn't hold back anymore. "He said he was teaching me discipline," I whispered, my voice breaking. "Mom says he's just strict, that all stepfathers are like this." "But—" Sarah's hand found mine, squeezing gently. "No, sweetheart, not all stepfathers break their children's bones." She showed me the X-ray screen, pointing to shadows that indicated healed fractures. "See these? They're not from falls or accidents. These are defensive injuries. Your body has been keeping a record of everything he's done to you." For the first time, I saw physical proof of what I'd endured. The evidence was there, written in my bones, impossible to dismiss or explain away. Sarah reached for the phone on the wall, her expression determined. "I'm legally required to report this," she said. "But more than that, I want to help you. Will you let me?" I looked at the X-ray screen again, at the story my bones were telling. Then I thought about Marcus waiting outside, probably already crafting his next excuse. About my mother, ready to defend him yet again. About the years of pain and fear that would continue if I stayed silent. "Yes," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. "Please help me." Sarah nodded, dialing a number I would later learn was for both the police and Child Protective Services. As she spoke quietly into the phone, I closed my eyes, exhausted but somehow lighter. For the first time in 3 years, I felt a glimmer of hope. I could hear my mother in the hallway, her voice rising as she demanded to know what was taking so long. But in that moment, protected by Sarah and the truth my X-rays revealed, I knew things would never be the same. The police were coming, and Marcus's reign of terror was about to end. My mother's excuses wouldn't save him this time. The evidence was right there, captured in black and white, impossible to deny or explain away. The next few hours passed in a blur. 2 police officers arrived, their faces grim as they reviewed my X-rays with Sarah. Detective Lisa Martinez took the lead, her gentle demeanor helping me feel safe enough to finally tell the whole truth. Start from the beginning, she said, sitting beside my hospital bed. When did the abuse start? I told her everything. How Marcus moved in when I was 14, how the discipline started with harsh grabs and pushes, escalating to full-blown violence within months. I described each accident that had sent me to different emergency rooms, always with a carefully rehearsed story and a different hospital to avoid suspicion. Your mother knew? Detective Martinez asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. She always said he was doing it for my own good. I replied, my voice hollow, that I needed a father figure to keep me in line. Outside my room, I could hear my mother's hysterical protests mixing with Marcus's angry demands. The second officer was questioning them separately, and from the rising volume, it wasn't going well. Sarah, the X-ray tech, had stayed with me through everything. She brought me water, adjusted my pillows, and most importantly, kept my mother and Marcus away. The police need to finish their investigation, she'd tell them firmly whenever they tried to enter. Dr. Thompson, the orthopedic surgeon, came in to discuss my leg. The break is clean, he explained, pointing to the X-ray. But what concerns me more are these older injuries. We found evidence of at least 7 previously healed fractures. Detective Martinez documented everything, taking photos of my current injuries and making detailed notes about the past incidents. She pulled out her phone, showing me pictures of a facility I'd never seen before. This is Haven House, she explained. It's a secure youth shelter where you'll be staying once you're released. Your mother and stepfather won't be able to reach you there. The thought of not going home both terrified and relieved me. What about school? I asked, trying to focus on practical matters to keep from breaking down. They have a private tutoring program, she assured me. You won't fall behind. Suddenly, a commotion erupted in the hallway. You can't do this, Marcus's voice boomed. She's my stepdaughter. I have rights. Sir, please lower your voice, a male officer warned. This is a hospital. This is ridiculous, my mother joined in. We're her parents. You can't just take her. Sarah stepped outside briefly, then returned with a tight smile. They're being escorted out, she said. Security will make sure they don't come back. Detective Martinez squeezed my hand. You're incredibly brave, Anna. I know this isn't easy, but you're doing the right thing. A social worker named Ms. Chen arrived shortly after, carrying a folder thick with documents. We'll be filing for an emergency protection order, she explained. Neither your mother nor Marcus will be legally allowed to contact you. As she spoke, I could hear Marcus being led away in handcuffs, his threats echoing down the hallway. My mother's sobs followed, but for the first time, they didn't weaken my resolve. The X-rays had shown everyone what I'd known all along. This wasn't discipline, it was abuse. What happens next? I asked, looking between Detective Martinez and Ms. Chen. First, we get your leg properly set, Ms. Chen said. Then, once you're stable, we'll move you to Haven House. You'll have your own room, counseling services, and round-the-clock support staff. And Marcus? I couldn't help but ask. He's being charged with child abuse, assault, and battery, Detective Martinez answered. With the X-ray evidence and your statement, he's facing significant prison time. And my mom? The detective's face softened. She's being charged with child endangerment and failure to protect. She'll have to answer for her role in this too. I nodded, emotions churning inside me. Part of me still loved my mother, still wished she had chosen to protect me instead of Marcus. But the bigger part knew this was necessary. Both of them needed to face consequences for what they'd done. Sarah, who had become my unexpected guardian angel through all of this, finally had to leave for her next shift. You're going to be okay, she whispered, hugging me carefully. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is tell the truth. As the day turned to evening, I lay in my hospital bed, my leg now properly set in a cast. The pain medication made everything feel slightly surreal, but for the first time in years, I felt safe. The constant fear that had been my companion for so long was finally beginning to fade. Detective Martinez had left her card on my bedside table, along with a promise to check on me regularly. Ms. Chen was arranging my transfer to Haven House, and Dr. Thompson had assured me I would make a full recovery. The truth that had been hidden in my bones was finally out, and there was no going back. As I drifted off to sleep, I realized that my broken leg had actually set me free. 6 months passed like a whirlwind. My leg healed stronger than before. Much like my spirit, Haven House became more than just a shelter. It became my first taste of real safety. My roommate Jade had a similar story, and we formed an instant bond over late-night talks and shared healing. The trial date was approaching, and while my anxiety spiked every time I thought about facing Marcus and my mother in court, my support system remained unshakable. Detective Martinez visited regularly, updating me on the case and sometimes just bringing me my favorite coffee. Sarah, the X-ray tech who changed my life, still checked in through Ms. Chen, sending care packages and encouraging notes. "You're a star student," my tutor at Haven House often said. Without the constant stress of walking on eggshells at home, my grades had improved dramatically. I'd even started applying to colleges, something Marcus had always said was a waste of time for someone like me. The day of the trial arrived with a crisp autumn chill. I wore a blue blazer borrowed from Haven House's clothing program, my hands steady as I walked into the courthouse with Ms. Chen by my side. Detective Martinez met us at the entrance, her presence reassuring. "Remember," she said, "just tell the truth. Your x-rays already tell the story, you're just giving it a voice." The courtroom felt smaller than I'd imagined. Marcus sat with his lawyer, trying to maintain his strict but caring stepfather facade. My mother was separated from him, looking pale and drawn. Neither of them would meet my eyes. Sarah was there too, ready to testify about the x-rays that had broken the cycle of abuse. She gave me a warm smile as I passed, helping calm my nerves as I took the stand. For 2 hours, I testified about every accident, every lesson, every time my mother chose Marcus over my safety. My voice remained strong, even as I described the final incident that broke my leg. The prosecutor displayed my x-rays on a large screen, each healed fracture a testament to what I'd endured. "And what did your mother say when you told her about the abuse?" the prosecutor asked. "She said Marcus was just being strict," I replied, my voice clear. "That I needed discipline, and I should be grateful he cared enough to correct my behavior." Marcus's lawyer tried to paint him as a concerned stepfather dealing with a rebellious teenager, but the medical evidence was irrefutable. Dr. Thompson's testimony about the pattern of injuries left no room for doubt. When the verdict came, it felt like everyone in the courtroom held their breath. Marcus was found guilty on all counts, sentenced to 15 years in prison. My mother received 5 years for child endangerment with mandatory counseling. As they led Marcus away, he finally looked at me, his face contorted with rage. But this time, his anger couldn't touch me. I was no longer the frightened girl who believed she deserved his discipline. Outside the courthouse, surrounded by my support team, I finally let the tears fall, not from fear or pain, but from relief. Sarah hugged me tightly, whispering, "You did it, honey. You're free." Detective Martinez had a surprise for me. She'd been in contact with several organizations that supported abuse survivors, and they'd arranged a full scholarship for my college education. "Your future is yours now," she said, handing me the acceptance letter. Back at Heaven House that evening, we had a small celebration. Jade had baked a cake, decorating it with the words "Victory" in wobbly blue frosting. Ms. Chen presented me with a journal, its cover embossed with a phoenix. "For your new beginning," she said. "Sometimes the strongest people come from the hardest battles." As I packed for college a few months later, I found the x-rays Sarah had given me copies of. Looking at them now, I saw more than just evidence of abuse. I saw the moment everything changed, the day someone finally saw the truth and stood up for me. I'm now studying to become a radiologic technologist. Sometimes people ask why I chose this field, and I tell them about Sarah, about how one person's willingness to look deeper and speak up can save a life. I want to be that person for someone else. My leg healed with barely a scar, but I keep those x-rays as a reminder, not of the pain I endured, but of the strength I found. They remind me that the truth, like broken bones, can hurt as it heals, but it makes us stronger in the end. Last week, I received a letter from my mother in prison. She's finally attending therapy, finally acknowledging her role in what happened. I'm not ready to forgive her yet, but for the first time, I'm focusing on my own healing rather than managing everyone else's feelings. As I walk across campus to my classes, my steps are steady and sure. The scared girl who once thought she deserved abuse has been replaced by a young woman who knows her worth. My bones tell a story now, not of breaking, but of healing, of triumph, and of the strength that comes from finally speaking the truth. The sickening crack echoed through the hallway as I hit the ground. Pain shot through my arm like lightning, and I knew immediately something was terribly wrong. Through tear-filled eyes, I looked up to see my sister Victoria standing at the top of the stairs, a satisfied smirk playing across her face. "That'll teach you to touch my things," she sneered, tucking a strand of perfect blonde hair behind her ear. I hadn't touched anything of hers, but that didn't matter to Victoria. At 17, 2 years my senior, she'd made it her mission to make my life miserable ever since Dad left 3 years ago. Mom called it processing her emotions. I called it torture. "Emily? Victoria? What was that noise?" Mom's voice carried from the kitchen. The panic in Victoria's eyes was instant. Emily fell down the stairs. Victoria called back, her voice dripping with fake concern. "She's so clumsy." I tried to speak to tell the truth, but the pain was overwhelming. Tears streamed down my face as I cradled my clearly broken arm. Mom rushed in, still wearing her cooking apron, and gasped at the sight. "Oh my God, Emily." She knelt beside me, her eyes wide with worry. But when she looked up at Victoria, something changed in her expression. What really happened? Victoria's lower lip trembled, a trick she perfected over the years. She was running down the stairs. "Mom." I tried to warn her to be careful. She pushed me. I managed through gritted teeth. "She did it on purpose." Mom's face hardened. "Emily, don't start with these accusations. Your sister would never." "But she did." I protested, wincing as another wave of pain hit me. "She's always hurting me when you're not looking." "That's enough." Mom's voice took on that familiar tone, the one that meant she'd already decided what the truth was. "Victoria, help me get your sister to the car. We need to go to the hospital." The drive to the emergency room was tense. Victoria sat in the back with me, maintaining her concerned sister act perfectly. Every time I tried to speak, Mom would cut me off with a sharp, "We'll discuss this later." In the emergency room, a young nurse gently examined my arm while taking notes. "How did this happen?" she asked, her kind eyes meeting mine. Before I could answer, Mom jumped in. She fell down the stairs. She was running and lost her balance. The nurse looked at me expectantly, but I could feel Mom's warning gaze. Victoria squeezed my good hand in what looked like comfort to others, but I felt her nails dig into my skin. "Is that what happened?" The nurse pressed, clearly noting my hesitation. I started, but Mom interrupted again. "Emily, tell the nice nurse how you fell." Just then, Dr. Harrison, the orthopedic surgeon, walked in reviewing my x-rays. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Something about his presence made me feel safer. "These images are concerning," he said, putting them up on the light board. "This type of break isn't consistent with a simple fall." Mom's breath caught. "What do you mean?" "This spiral fracture," he pointed to the x-ray, "typically occurs from a twisting force. It's commonly seen in what?" Victoria spoke up, her voice slightly higher than usual. "In cases where someone's arm has been forcefully twisted or grabbed during a fall." He finished, looking directly at me. "Emily, can you tell me exactly what happened?" The room fell silent. Mom's hand gripped the edge of her chair, and Victoria's confident facade cracked slightly. For the first time in years, I felt like someone might actually listen to me. "Doctor," Mom started, but Dr. Harrison held up his hand. "I'd like to hear from Emily, please." I took a deep breath, gathering every ounce of courage I had. The pain in my arm seemed to fuel my determination. Years of keeping quiet, of accepting Victoria's abuse and Mom's willful blindness, bubbled to the surface. "My sister pushed me," I said clearly, my voice stronger than I expected. "She twisted my arm and pushed me down the stairs because she thought I touched her things. But I didn't. She does this all the time, and nobody believes me." The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Harrison nodded slowly, making notes in my chart. Mom's face had gone pale, and Victoria looked scared for the first time I could remember. "I need to make some calls," Dr. Harrison said calmly. "Emily, a social worker would like to speak with you. Alone." As he left the room, Mom burst into tears. "Emily, please," she begged. "It was just a sisterly fight. We can handle this at home." But looking at Dr. Harrison's retreating back, I knew this was different. Someone was finally going to listen. Someone was finally going to help. Victoria's perfect mask crumbled completely. "You little snitch," she hissed under her breath. But this time, I wasn't afraid. The truth was finally coming out, and my broken arm might just be the thing that breaks the cycle of abuse I'd endured for years. The social worker, Ms. Martinez, had kind eyes and a gentle voice that made me feel safe enough to tell her everything. We sat in a private consultation room while Mom and Victoria waited outside, their presence no longer looming over me. "This isn't the first time, is it?" Ms. Martinez asked, carefully documenting my words. I shook my head, feeling tears well up. "Victoria, she's been different since Dad left. At first, it was just mean comments and hiding my things. Then she started pushing me, pinching me when Mom wasn't looking. She'd tell everyone I was lying if I complained." I rolled up my sleeve with my good arm, revealing fading bruises. "Last week, she accidentally slammed my locker door on my hand at school. The teacher believed her when she said she didn't see me there." Ms. Martinez's pen moved steadily across her notepad. "And your mother? How does she respond when you tell her about these incidents?" I swallowed hard. "She doesn't want to see it. After Dad left, it's like she can't handle any more problems. She says I'm trying to get attention or that I'm jealous of Victoria. But I'm not. I just want it to stop." Just then, we'd heard a commotion outside. Victoria's voice carried through the door, high and hysterical. "This is ridiculous. She's making everything up. Mom, tell them." Ms. Martinez touched my shoulder gently. "You're safe here, Emily. Would you like to take a break?" I shook my head. Now that I'd started telling the truth, I couldn't stop. I told her about the accidents that always seemed to happen when no one was watching, about the threats Victoria made if I dared to tell anyone, about Mom's constant dismissal of my fears. "The worst part," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "is that sometimes I think Mom knows. She sees the bruises, the fear in my eyes, but she chooses to believe Victoria's lies because it's easier." Dr. Harrison joined us, bringing updated x-rays and a grim expression. "Emily, I've reviewed your medical history. There's a pattern here that concerns me greatly. Multiple unexplained injuries over the past 3 years, all documented as accidents." He spread the files on the table: a sprained wrist from tripping in the backyard, a mild concussion from falling against my desk, countless bruises and minor injuries that Mom had brushed off as my clumsiness. "This ends today," he said firmly. "We're mandated reporters, and we're filing a formal report." Outside, Mom's voice joined Victoria's protests. "You can't do this. We're a good family, we just need to work things out at home." But it was too late for that. Years of hidden abuse were finally coming to light, and no amount of excuses could cover it up anymore. A police officer arrived to take statements. Victoria's confident facade crumbled completely when faced with the evidence: my documented injuries, the inconsistencies in her stories, and most damning of all, security camera footage from the upstairs hallway that captured the entire incident. Mom sat in the waiting room, her head in her hands, while Victoria was interviewed separately. I could hear her trying to charm the officer, using the same sweet voice that had fooled so many others. But this time, no one was buying it. "Emily," Ms. Martinez said gently, "we're going to recommend you stay with your Aunt Sarah for a while. We've already contacted her, and she's on her way." Aunt Sarah, Mom's younger sister, who Victoria always said was too nosy for her own good. The same aunt who had questioned the bruises she saw at family gatherings, who Victoria made sure was never invited back. "She'll have to go to therapy," I heard Mom protest in the hallway. "This will ruin her future." "Your daughter's future?" Dr. Harrison's voice was sharp. "Or your other daughter's safety." The weight of years of silence lifted from my shoulders. For the first time since Dad left, someone was putting my safety first. The pain in my arm seemed less intense, overshadowed by the relief of finally being heard. Aunt Sarah arrived like a whirlwind, her face a mix of worry and determination. She took one look at my arm, then at Mom's defeated posture and Victoria's tear-streaked face, and her expression hardened. "I knew something was wrong," she said, pulling me into a gentle hug. "I should have pushed harder when I saw the signs." Victoria tried one last time, her voice sweet as honey. "Aunt Sarah, this is all a big misunderstanding. Emily's just upset because—" "Save it," Aunt Sarah cut her off. "The security footage doesn't lie, Victoria. Neither do x-rays." As Aunt Sarah helped me gather my things to leave, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the hospital window. The scared, silent girl who walked in hours ago was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who finally found her voice. Mom watched helplessly as Aunt Sarah led me out, my broken arm a testament to years of hidden abuse. Victoria sat alone in the consultation room, her perfect world crumbling around her. This wasn't the end of the story, but it was the end of my silence. Living with Aunt Sarah was like stepping into a different world. Gone were the constant tensions, the walking on eggshells, the fear of what Victoria might do next. My broken arm healed slowly, but my spirit healed faster. 3 months passed. Victoria was required to attend intensive therapy sessions, and Mom had to participate in parenting classes. I had my own therapy sessions with Dr. Lauren, who helped me understand that none of this was my fault. You know, Aunt Sarah said one morning over breakfast, "Your art teacher called yesterday. She says you're flourishing in class." It was true. Without Victoria's constant criticism or Mom's dismissive attitude, I discovered a talent for painting. My broken arm had forced me to learn to use my left hand, and somehow that challenge had unleashed a creativity I never knew I had. The day of Victoria's court-mandated family therapy session arrived. I hadn't seen her or Mom since leaving the hospital. Dr. Lauren had prepared me for this, but my hands still shook as Aunt Sarah drove me to the counseling center. Victoria looked different. Her perfect blonde hair was pulled back simply, and she seemed smaller somehow, less intimidating. Mom sat beside her, fidgeting with her wedding ring, a nervous habit she'd had since Dad left. "Emily," Victoria spoke first, her voice lacking its usual manipulation. "I'm sorry." The therapist, Dr. Chen, nodded encouragingly. "Victoria has been working on understanding her actions and their impact. Would you like to hear what she has to say?" I took a deep breath and nodded. Victoria's hands twisted in her lap as she spoke. "After Dad left, I was so angry. I blamed everyone, but especially you. You were always so good. Never causing problems, never making Mom cry like I did. I thought if I could make you as miserable as I felt." She paused, wiping tears. "It was wrong. Everything I did was wrong. The therapist helped me see that I was becoming exactly like Dad, hurting people because I was hurt." Mom's intervention came next. "Emily, I failed you," she said, her voice cracking. "I was so afraid of losing another daughter that I let Victoria hurt you. I convinced myself that ignoring it would make it go away. I was wrong, and I'm so sorry." I felt tears rolling down my cheeks. "I needed you to protect me," I whispered. "Both of you. I lost Dad too, but I didn't let it turn me into someone who hurts others." The therapy session was intense but healing. Dr. Chen helped us navigate through years of unspoken pain, fear, and resentment. By the end, something had shifted. "Emily's doing really well in my home," Aunt Sarah spoke up. "She's safe, she's thriving in school, and she's discovering who she is without fear. I think she should stay with me until we're all certain that real change has happened." Mom nodded slowly. "I agree. Victoria and I need to prove we can be trusted again." Victoria reached into her bag and pulled out something wrapped in tissue paper. "I saw your art exhibition at school," she said softly. "You're really talented. I bought this for you." It was a professional art set, high-quality brushes, paints, and canvases. The kind I'd always wanted but never dared to ask for. "I know it doesn't make up for anything," Victoria added quickly. "But I want you to know I see you now. Really see you." 6 months after the hospital incident, I held my first solo art exhibition at school. My featured piece was a series of paintings done with my left hand while my right arm was healing. Abstract works that captured the journey from darkness to light. To my surprise, Victoria and Mom came to the opening. They stood quietly in the background, letting me have my moment without trying to control or diminish it. Aunt Sarah beamed proudly as my art teacher praised my work. "You did this," Victoria said later, studying one of my paintings. "You took something painful and turned it into something beautiful." I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine remorse, and maybe even a hint of admiration. "It's what survivors do," I replied. Mom wiped tears from her eyes as she examined my work. "I see your pain in these paintings," she said softly. "But I also see your strength." Aunt Sarah wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "Should we tell them your news?" I smiled, pulling out an envelope. I got accepted into the summer art program at the state university, full scholarship. Victoria's face showed no jealousy, only pride. That's amazing, Emily. As we stood there surrounded by my art, I realized that sometimes broken things can be rebuilt stronger than before. My arm had healed, my family was healing, and I had found my voice, not just in words, but in colors and shapes that told my story of survival. The security camera that captured Victoria's push had revealed more than just physical abuse. It had exposed the cracks in our family that needed to be repaired. And while the healing wasn't perfect or complete, it was real. I was no longer the silent victim. I was an artist, a survivor, and finally truly free. I knew something was wrong the moment I took my morning medication. The pills looked slightly different, but my mother had just refilled my prescription yesterday, so I assumed the pharmacy had switched to a generic brand. That decision almost cost me my life. I'm Maya Thompson, 26, living with a congenital heart condition that requires daily medication. My younger sister Sophia, 23, had always been jealous of the attention my condition brought me. Growing up, she'd make comments like, "Must be nice to have everyone worry about you all the time," or another hospital visit. "At least you get to skip work." That morning, I felt dizzy within minutes of taking my medication. My heart was racing unusually fast and my vision started blurring. I called out to my mom, who was visiting for the weekend. "You're being dramatic again," she sighed, barely looking up from her phone. "Sophia's right, you do milk your condition for attention." The room started spinning and I collapsed in a kitchen. The last thing I heard was Sophia's voice, surprisingly calm. "See, she's faking it again." I woke up in the ICU, surrounded by beeping machines and concerned medical staff. Dr. Adams, my cardiologist for the past 5 years, stood at my bedside with an expression I'd never seen before, a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Maya," he said gravely, "your blood pressure was dangerously high when you were brought in. We're running toxicology tests. These symptoms, they're not consistent with missed medication. Something else is going on." My parents and Sophia arrived shortly after, putting on a show of concern for the hospital staff. But when Dr. Adams stepped out, their attitudes changed. "You need to tell them it was an accident," Mom hissed. "Say you mixed up your pills or something." Sophia perched on the edge of my bed, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the railing. "It was just a little joke," she said, rolling her eyes. "I switched your heart meds with some vitamin supplements. How was I supposed to know you'd freak out like this?" I stared at her in shock. "You did what?" "Lower your voice," Dad warned. "We don't need the whole hospital hearing our private family matters." "Private family matters?" I struggled to sit up. "She tampered with my medication." "It was a prank, Maya," Mom insisted. "Sophie's been going through a rough time since her breakup. She wasn't thinking clearly. You know how sisters tease each other." Before I could respond, Dr. Adams returned with a folder and a police officer. My family's faces immediately switched back to concerned expressions. "Maya," Dr. Adams said, his voice stern, "we got your preliminary toxicology results back. What we found," he paused, looking directly at Sophia, "was not vitamins." Officer Rivera stepped forward. "Miss Thompson, the substances found in your system are consistent with beta blockers and other medications that, when combined with your heart medication, could have been fatal. This wasn't a prank. This was deliberate." Sophia's face went pale. Mom jumped in immediately. "There must be some mistake. Our girls play little jokes on each other all the time." "Jokes?" Dr. Adams's voice was sharp. "Mrs. Thompson, your daughter could have died. In fact, if her body hadn't reacted so quickly, causing her to collapse and get medical attention, we wouldn't be having this conversation." I looked at my sister, seeing her clearly for the first time. Behind her perfect facade and innocent expressions, there was something cold in her eyes. How many times had she tampered with my medication before? How many of my episodes were actually her pranks? "We're just getting started with the tests," Dr. Adams continued. "Officer Rivera needs to take your statement, Maya. And given the circumstances, we're implementing a no-visitor policy except for medical staff." "You can't do that," Mom protested. "We're her family." Officer Rivera stood firm. "Ma'am, right now you and your daughter are potential suspects in what appears to be an attempted homicide. I'm going to have to ask you all to leave." As security escorted my family out, Sophia turned back with a look that sent chills down my spine. "It was just a joke," she called out. "Tell them, Maya. Tell them what a good sister I've always been." But the preliminary blood tests were just the beginning. What they would find next would reveal that this prank was part of something much darker, something that had been going on for years. The toxicology reports kept coming in over the next few days, each one more disturbing than the last. Dr. Adams and Officer Rivera sat with me as they explained their findings. "We found traces of multiple substances in your system," Dr. Adams explained, spreading out the reports. "Not just from that day, but evidence of long-term exposure. Different medications, all potentially lethal when combined with your heart condition." Officer Rivera pulled out a notebook. "We searched your apartment with your permission. The forensics team found residue of crushed pills in several of your food containers. This wasn't a one-time thing, Maya." My hands shook as I processed this information. "How long?" "Based on the blood work and hair follicle tests, at least 8 months," Dr. Adams said quietly. "Those unexplained episodes you had, the times you felt worse after supposedly taking your medication, it wasn't your condition deteriorating. Someone was poisoning you." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Memories started flooding back. Sophie offering to make me smoothies, insisting on organizing my pill container, always being around when I had unexpected episodes. "There's more," Officer Rivera added. "We found a diary in your sister's car. She's been documenting everything. The amounts, the reactions, timing. It's all there." My mother had been calling the hospital nonstop, leaving messages about family loyalty and sisterly misunderstandings. The hospital staff had been instructed not to put any calls through to my room. A psychiatric evaluator, Dr. Chen, joined my case. "Your sister's diary entries are concerning," she explained. "They show a pattern of calculated behavior, not impulsive pranks. She wrote about watching you suffer, timing your reactions, even celebrating when you had to miss important events due to illness." The police investigation uncovered more disturbing evidence. Sophia had been researching untraceable poisons, joining online forums about mimicking heart condition symptoms. She even befriended a pharmacy technician to learn about drug interactions. "What I don't understand is why," I said during one of my sessions with Dr. Chen. "We grew up together. She's my sister." "From what we've gathered," Dr. Chen replied carefully, "your sister has been struggling with severe jealousy and resentment since childhood. Your medical condition meant you received more attention, which she interpreted as favoritism. Instead of developing empathy, she developed a dangerous fixation." My parents' response to the mounting evidence was denial and manipulation. They hired a lawyer who tried to paint Sophia as a troubled but well-meaning sister who just made some poor choices. "They're still trying to protect her," I told Officer Rivera, who'd become a steady support through this nightmare. "Even with proof that she tried to kill me. It's not uncommon in cases like this," she explained. "Some parents would rather believe in a comfortable lie than face a horrifying truth." The hospital security caught Sophia trying to sneak into my room dressed as a nurse one night. In her bag, they found more unmarked pills. When confronted, she broke down and started laughing. "I just wanted to fix her," she told the security guards. "If she was really sick, instead of just pretending, maybe people would see I'm the strong one." The district attorney decided to press charges, not just against Sophia, but also against my parents for obstruction of justice. Evidence showed they had deleted text messages where Sophia talked about her experiments with my medication. Dr. Adams implemented new protocols for my care. All my medications would now come from a specific pharmacy with tamper-proof packaging. He also ordered comprehensive testing of all my previous blood samples, searching for patterns we might have missed. "The system failed you before," he admitted. "We should have noticed something wasn't right when your symptoms didn't match your condition's usual progression." As I lay in my hospital bed that night, watching the city lights through my window, I thought about all the times I defended Sophia to others. "She's just having a hard time," I'd say. "She doesn't mean to be cruel." But the truth was in those blood tests, in her diary, in the calculated way she'd systematically tried to destroy my health while pretending to be a caring sister. The doctors said I would recover, but my trust in family, that might be permanently broken. 1 year later, I sat in the courtroom, listening to the judge deliver the verdict. Sophia, dressed in a conservative blue suit, maintained her innocent expression until the end. But when the judge announced guilty on all counts, her mask finally cracked. "You're going to miss me when I'm gone," she screamed as they led her away. "Who's going to take care of you now, Maya? Who's going to be your sister?" The sentence was harsh. 15 years for attempted murder, with additional charges for tampering with medication and premeditated poisoning. My parents, found guilty of obstruction of justice and endangering a vulnerable adult, received 3 years of probation and mandatory counseling. Dr. Adams testified during the trial, presenting medical evidence that showed how close I'd come to death multiple times. This wasn't just poisoning, he explained to the court. This was sophisticated medical torture designed to prolong suffering while maintaining plausible deniability. The diary entries they read in court revealed the true extent of Sophia's disturbed mind. She'd written about watching me sleep after poisoning my food, timing how long it took for symptoms to appear, even calculating which doses would make me sick enough to miss important events, but not sick enough to die, at least not quickly. "I want her to suffer like I suffered," one entry read. "Every time Mom and Dad rushed to her hospital bed, every time they canceled my events because of her emergency. Now she'll know what it feels like to have your life controlled by illness." My parents tried to approach me after the sentencing, but Officer Rivera and my victim advocate stood firm. "Haven't you done enough?" Officer Rivera asked them. "The restraining order is still in effect." Mom called out anyway. "We're still family, Maya. Families forgive." But I've learned that real family doesn't poison you, doesn't gaslight you, doesn't choose to protect your attempted murderer just to maintain appearances. My recovery involved more than just physical healing. Dr. Chen helped me work through the psychological trauma of being systematically poisoned by my own sister while my parents turned a blind eye. "You're not just dealing with the physical effects," she explained during one session. "You're grieving the loss of the family you thought you had." The case gained national attention, leading to new legislation about medication tampering and family abuse. Dr. Adams worked with pharmaceutical companies to develop better tamper-proof packaging for home medications. "Your story saved lives," he told me during a checkup. "We've implemented new protocols for monitoring patients with chronic conditions, looking for signs of medication tampering. 3 cases have already been identified and stopped." I moved to a new city, started a support group for survivors of family abuse, and slowly built a new life. My heart condition stabilized once I was actually taking the right medications without interference. The most healing moment came 6 months after the trial when another family reached out to me. Their daughter had noticed her sister tampering with their mother's heart medication. Because they'd heard my story on the news, they knew the signs and stopped it before tragedy struck. "You helped us see the truth before it was too late," the mother told me. "We got our daughter the psychiatric help she needed instead of enabling her like your parents did with Sophia." Today, I work as a patient advocate, helping others recognize and escape medical abuse. My story is used in training programs for healthcare providers, teaching them to look beyond the caring family facade. Dr. Adams and Officer Rivera remained part of my new support system, along with friends who proved that family isn't always about blood. "You didn't just survive," Dr. Chen told me in our final session. "You turned your trauma into a tool to help others." That's real strength. Sometimes I still get cards from my parents talking about forgiveness and family unity. Sophia writes too, from prison, alternating between apologies and threats. I don't read them anymore. Instead, I focus on my work, my real friends, and the family I've chosen. My heart condition requires daily medication, but now it comes with safety seals and verification codes. More importantly, it comes with the knowledge that I'm finally truly safe. "Your sister's actions nearly killed you," Dr. Adams said during my last checkup. "But they also set you free. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead us to our best lives." Looking out from my new apartment, watching the sunset over a city where nobody knows me as the girl whose sister poisoned her, I finally feel at peace. My heart is stronger now, not just physically, but in knowing that I survived, thrived, and turned my nightmare into a wake-up call for others.